Rick Santorum, former U.S. representative and two-term senator from Pennsylvania. Senator Santorum, you said Monday President Obama has made the country less safe and his policies have made America's enemies, quote, less fearful and less respectful of us. But when it comes to going after terrorists, for example, drone attacks in Pakistan have more than tripled under President Obama. He sent 30,000 more U.S. troops into Afghanistan last year, and he just authorized, as we talked about this mission to kill bin Laden. How much more aggressive could he be?
If you look at what President Obama has done right in foreign policy, it has always been a continuation of the Bush policies. He's gone right by keeping Gitmo open. He's done right by finishing the job in Iraq. He has done right by trying to win in Afghanistan. Those were existing policies that were in place. The decision he made with Osama bin Laden was a tactical decision. It wasn't a strategic decision. The strategic decision was made already by President Bush to go after him. What President Obama has done on his watch, the issues that have come up while he's been president, he's gotten it wrong strategically every single time. Whether it's in Central America, Colombia, and Honduras, whether it's in the Middle East, with Egypt, with Syria, and most importantly, with Iran. We had an opportunity 18 months ago to topple a regime that is a sworn enemy, is at war with this country, is funding terrorist attacks against our troops and in the Middle East, and the President of the United States sided with the mullahs instead of the demonstrators.
Senator Santorum, I want to start with you. You say that Muslims are predisposed to fundamentalism. In March, you said this to students at Bates College. In the case of Islam, most people would say it's somewhat stuck in the 7th century because of the interpretation of the Quran. The problem is that people who have tried to modernize Islam get killed. Question: in this Arab Spring, when young people across the Middle East are protesting, not bombing, can the American president afford to be seen as anti-Islam?
Well, I'm not anti-Islam, first. What I'm doing is just recognizing the reality. And the reality is that the version of Islam that is practiced in the Middle East, that is growing and spreading, is one that is not going to be one that we can deal with very easily. It's one that requires, as a Catholic it's a tough term to say, reformation. It requires some sort of introspection within the Islamic world. And I think we have an opportunity now that we have shown that we are going to be vigilant, that we're not going to back down. That thankfully we're not putting timetables, definite timetables to leave, that we're going to continue and finish this job. It's time for us to engage those in the Muslim world, and there are many in the Muslim world, who want to abandon these radical principles and want to fight those who are advocating those. But unfortunately, as I mentioned, they are not treated particularly well when they do. We need to be a government that talks about those problems. We cannot continue to put the ideological battle in the closet and not bring it out and talk about it and deal with it.
Raise your hand if you would support a resumption of waterboarding under any circumstances.
Under certain circumstances or any
yes,
circumstances?
Under certain circumstances.
Certain or any?
Under any circumstances that you could imagine, not all.
Sure, I'll do it.
Oh, you would not?
No, I would not.
And Governor Johnson, you would not.
Anything.
I would not.
Okay.
Well, that's just simply not true, Ron. I mean, the fact is that what we found is that some of this information that we found out that led to Osama bin Laden actually came from these enhanced interrogation techniques. And by the way, we wouldn't have been able to launch a raid into Pakistan to get Osama bin Laden if we weren't in Afghanistan.
Senator Santorum, I turn to you. Governor Johnson has said that in addition to repealing the president's health care plan, he thinks Republicans need to think about repealing the prescription drug plan tied to Medicare. You voted for it. It's cost hundreds of billions of dollars. You've said you regretted that vote now. As president, would you work to repeal that and leave the 25 million plus seniors who now enjoy that benefit without it?
No, what I would do is work to reform the entire Medicare system, which is what's being proposed by Paul Ryan and what I've been proposing for a very long time. One of the reasons I actually voted for the Medicare prescription drug plan was because it was a private sector operated plan. It was not, as the current Medicare system is and what Obamacare is, a government run top down type of approach. And in fact, the way we designed that program resulted in the program coming in 40% under budget. I don't know of any other program that's actually come in under budget in Washington, D.C., and the reason it was is because the design was right. We need to take that design and apply it to the entire Medicare program, which is exactly what Paul Ryan has proposed. So the answer is not to pull prescription drugs out. Prescription drugs is an important part of health care delivery in America, and to have a Medicare plan without a prescription drug component really doesn't make any sense. We need to have a plan that is run efficiently, that is private sector, and is not an unlimited entitlement. What we have right now is an uncapped entitlement. We need to cap the entitlement and put people in charge instead of the government.
Senator Santorum, you say that Republicans should refuse to raise the debt limit unless Democrats agree to take out all funding for Obamacare. Is ending or at least blocking or defunding Obama health care reform more important than keeping the country from default? And also, how do you defend your plan on Medicare to turn it into a voucher system, not 10 years from now, as Paul Ryan suggests, but right away for seniors who are already in the program?
Well, what I would say is that we are at a critical time in our country with debt, and we have a program that is going to explode the debt even further. And even more important than debt, what Obamacare does is shift this fundamental belief of our founders, that our country was created to make sure that people are free. That's what exactly America is about. It's about keeping people free and giving them the ability to provide for themselves. What Obamacare does for the first time, it creates a broad-based entitlement for every working American, not people on the margins of life, but it takes control of people's lives at a very, very important part, which is their health. And to me, it's a game changer, and it has to be stopped. It's the most important issue that faces this country right now. And we have to, as conservatives and Republicans, we have to stand up and say, no, we are not going to let this bill be implemented. We are not going to let government take control of our lives, be in a position where we are addicted to a drug of government for every working man and woman in this country. It must be stopped, and we should do it now.
Senator Santorum, you've worked against a path to citizenship and for making English the official national language of the United States. Right now, as the White House and Democrats are actively renewing their outreach to the Hispanic community, does the GOP run the risk of alienating Hispanic voters?
My father came to this country when he was 8 years old. And when I used to go visit my grandparents, my grandmother didn't speak English. And I always used to ask my dad, Dad, why don't you teach me Italian? He said, because you're an American and you need to learn the English language. That's the language of success in America. We're not doing anybody any favors by not teaching them a language that's going to empower them, not just here in this country, but frankly, it's the most powerful language in the world. So I don't apologize for that. I think that's an important thing, and I think most people who come to this country understand the importance of the English language and how it has to be the language of this country. As far as the President outreach to the Latino community, the President of the United States had a year where he had complete control of the legislature, could have passed any bill he wanted, and they didn't even take a vote in the United States Senate, and he never proposed a bill. This is a political issue for the President. He's playing political games with a very important group of people in America. We need to stop the political games and get the solutions, and that's not what they're doing in Washington.
Senator Santorum, U.S. and European intelligence officials are now saying there's no doubt active or retired Pakistani military provided some aid and protection to Osama bin Laden when he was living in that compound for up to 6 years. Considering that, would you cut off the $3.2 billion annually the U.S. provides to Pakistan?
I think we're in a situation where we have to engage the Pakistanis at a level that we haven't done before. We have tolerated a lot of bad behavior on the part of Pakistan, particularly in the area of Waziristan, and we have not done what President Bush did originally, which said you were either with us or you were against us. We need to go to the Pakistanis and engage them and say, look, we are fighting a critical battle for the security of our country in Afghanistan. You're either going to side with the United States, or we're going to deliver ultimatums such as you're not going to have the aid that we have provided. We need strong leadership. We don't need, as the President's advisor said, leading from behind. We need, in a dangerous time for our security, a president out there in front saying to the Pakistanis, you either cooperate with us in Afghanistan or there will be consequences, and one of the consequences should be aid.
Pakistan is a nuclear-armed country. The leaders there are concerned about terrorists taking them over. House Speaker John Boehner just this week said this is no time to back away from Pakistan, insisting aid should continue.
I'm not talking about backing away from Pakistan. I'm talking about engaging the Pakistanis in a serious discussion.
But what about the aid?
I'm asking them to participate in a joint effort. I want to engage Pakistan. I think Pakistan can be a vital ally. I've been a very strong supporter of Pakistan in the time that I was in the Congress and supported that aid package. Pakistan is vital to our security interests in that region, but they have to be a partner, not an antagonist. And what we saw, if that proves out to be the case, is clearly someone was not being a good partner to us in that region.
A man who, is he right? Are you willing to tone down your positions on abortion and homosexuality in an effort to reach more voters and to help the GOP coalesce behind a more fiscally focused platform? I
think anybody that would suggest that we call a truce on the moral issues doesn't understand what America is all about. America is a country that is based on this concept, on the Declaration of Independence, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. Rights come from God, and the first of which is life, the second of which is liberty. Those two concepts really transformed the world because it said that government was going to be limited, allow people to be free, and to pursue their own dreams, to serve their God and to serve their family and community. That is only possible if we have strong families, and strong marriage is at the root of strong families. And if we have a respect for human life, because of course we're all created equal. And so those founding concepts, what transformed the world in this United States of America, was a belief in family, a belief in life, and the belief of dignity of every person. If we abandon that, we have given up on America.
Senator Santorum, the last time you ran for office back in 2006, you were defeated by a Democrat by 18 points. You say it was a tough year for Republicans, and in fact it was, but some observers point to your criticism of working women in a book you had written at the time called It Takes a Family, in which you said this: many women find it easier, more professionally gratifying, and certainly more socially affirming to work outside the home. Here, we can thank the influence of radical feminism. Question: have you changed your opinion of why women work?
I wasn't professing as to why women work. I said that what we have is a society that was affirming women outside, and I was making the case they should be affirming women for whatever choice women make. And that's the point I was trying to make. I wasn't saying that we shouldn't be affirming women who are working outside the home, but we should be affirming women's choices as to whether they decide to stay at home and give up careers, as many do willingly, including my wife Karen, because they believe a calling for them to be a wife and a mother. Others who feel, because of many cases because of financial stress, not, but that they have to go out and work, and I understand that. I respect that. All I'm saying is both decisions should be applauded and affirmed based on the choice the woman wants to make. That's the point I made in the book, and I stand by that choice. And I believe that, as I said before, the foundational unit of this country is the family, and that we need to have a society that is encouraging and supporting of that basic family structure, and that means to also affirm women who stay at home.
But Senator, why would you link working women to radical feminism?
I wasn't talking about working women to radical feminism. I was talking about radical feminism has in fact created an atmosphere where working is affirmed in society and staying at home is not. That's the point I was trying to make, and I was trying to say that both should be affirmed.
Santorum.
A lot of people up here can check the boxes and say they have conservative positions, but I've led on every one from social conservative issues, on life and marriage, and I've got the arrows in my back from the mainstream media to prove it. I've led on national security issues, in cases, again, sometimes against President Bush, on issues like the Syrian Accountability Act and the Iran Freedom Support Act. I've been out front on national security issues. I've been out front with your colleague here and my former colleague Jim DeMint on Social Security, on Medicare, on welfare reform. I led on welfare reform, ended the only federal entitlement we've ever ended that I'm aware of. I was the one that carried the water on that. It's not just checking the boxes, it's having the courage to lead.